Cannabis legalization news is filmed before a live studio audience. This week on the Mother's Day program, so we're not really here live, we have the Senate holding its first hearing on the Safe Banking Act. New York regulators, they dropped a whole bunch of stuff, including some more licenses, and some delivery information is coming up on the card license. Then stick around, we're going to have some international news on Amsterdam. A special guest will be joining us. There's a whole mess more things from federal to New Hampshire's even in the news? That's crazy. And then, because we forgot to do it last week, we'll make sure that we remember as we play Name That Strain. Let's do a Mother's Day edition of Cannabis Legalization News. Miggy.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
As everybody knows, I recently lost mine, so if you haven't spoken to yours or called her, please do, because there's sometimes you just don't know. So that's all I gotta say. Appreciate you, man.
That's right. We are going to be appreciating our mothers tomorrow, and joining us, please keep it in the chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, throw us some money, and we'll answer your questions, especially when you're live. And then shout out to our sponsor, Collateral Base. It's been paying me 4 years. So our lead story today actually has to do with the Safe Banking Act in the Senate. Let's get into that and discuss it.
So did you watch the hearing? You can watch the hearing. It's on the committee's website.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know I did not watch the hearing. I was working. Some clients had some stuff that I had to get out the door, and I could have had it in the background when I was doing the stuff, but we had some systems updates as well.
Right on.
The meeting titled Examining Cannabis Banking Challenges of Small Businesses and Workers. They heard testimony from lawmakers on both sides.
It was interesting to watch. Our favorite activist out there, Kevin Sabet, showed up, and
we have a story with Kevin Sabet later, so yeah, hang out. Kevin Sabet is going to make an appearance toward the end of this broadcast. He's got a new opinion piece in Newsweek.
Dude, the shit shout that came out of his mouth talking about how I'm not against marijuana, but for years, man.
Not against this, but I hate it. Yeah.
I'm not saying we should put people in jail, but we shouldn't fix the law.
Which again is stupid, but I'm glad that they're trying to fix some of these things, as the industry is not going anywhere except for up. So the Senate is going to try to get safe banking passed, hopefully this year, or at least this legislative session, which ends at the next presidential election. Sherrod Brown, he's a Democrat out of Ohio, by the way, he provided, and he's a supporter, he provided the following, quote, "Without full access to the banking and payment system, legal cannabis businesses are forced to operate in the shadows." That's true, just like the legacy cannabis businesses that must operate in the shadows. Otherwise, yikes, they could get popped.
The law is definitely behind the times. Look at us right now. I'm doing a cannabis theme podcast in front of my house because it's the quietest place in it, with the weed in front, and nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares.
Oh, speaking of nobody caring, that gets us to a wonderful place, New York cannabis legalization. It is a thing, and it will become more and more of a thing. Cannabis Wire, and of course, you could sign up for their email news. Can I get out of it? Yes, there's the X. And Cannabis Wire, the New York regulators, they've dropped more regulations, and that's true. They came out with the final ones that were very similar, like 336 pages. And now we begin a waiting game. And they also came out with new guidance for delivery for existing card license holders. And they gave out another 50 card licenses. Of course, the card is the conditional adult use retail and delivery. Maybe that's what the D is on card. I'm not sure. But now there's a process and a procedure. They gave 28 pages of regulations. And if you're a card holder, you can now create a document, which would probably be at least 28 pages, but more, because if you read the document, it points to regulations. And so you have to incorporate those to demonstrate your compliance. And if you need help on demonstrating your compliance, you can find me over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com. The card program, there's like over 200. I want to say it's 215 now have been given out, and they just have been given a license. They really don't understand them. It's weird.
It's not just that. This is why I fuck with you, man, because you're in a new space in this industry, in the world, right? The cannabis lawyer. And like the new changes in the adult use rules, right? I'm sure whoever has a license is reading the reports and news stories, but you're actually digesting it and creating legal like background if there's something that needs to be done, right? So right away you're proactive on that kind of thing.
Yeah, but again, like every state does it different. Every state does it their own way, and New York is doing it in a way that you read it and you're like, this is fakakta. And you can say that because it's New York, but it makes no sense, a lot of the stuff that they're doing. And now one of the things that they're doing is locking out the existing players like Cresco and GTI and the original 10 medical cannabis holders. If they want in, they got to pay $20 million.
How are they able to lock out those type of MSOs? How is that possible?
They just wrote it into their statute. And actually, they didn't write it into their statute. They wrote it into their rules. And maybe there'll be lawsuits, but they have a time horizon in which to pay it. And if they want to be the only people that are really available, and how are they going to build out all these licenses? And like some of the people that I helped get, it was very easy to get into this. It's like that. Remember how we got in that lottery? It was basically that. And so you really couldn't make any money. Minimal paperwork. Eligibility was the most important aspect of it. And so now, like, they actually have to start to get compliant with regulations, and they don't understand that regulations, that's a lot of thick paperwork for regulations and demonstrating compliance, because a cannabis license is a promise to the state. That's why you're given the license, because you say what you're going to do and how. Anyway, I digress.
No, you're 100%. That's the thing, right? An application could be like 10 pages, but if within those 10 pages there are like little subsections that refer to other shits that are another 100 pages. So being proactive in the actual, this is why you need a lawyer if you're going to be in the recreational side of things, in the legal side of things, right? Because that's what this is all about. We want to be legal.
Right. You want to be legal, and if it's in a highly regulated state, you're basically opening a bank branch. And so banks, they have a lot of lawyers because it's a highly regulated space as well. It's sometimes I think it's too highly regulated, but we're going to talk later about a story out of Michigan, and Michigan has very open, transparent, more like New Jersey style regulation where everybody can get a license provided that the municipality wants you there and you follow the rules. Those are the systems that I really like, and I think are the most practical, because like nobody wants anybody who's cooking their food or making their beer to be cutting corners so that it's harmful to their health. It's still going to be regulated.
Right. FDA regulation. Matter of fact, I thought I brought it out here, but I just got my recent, you get industry letters, right? And then I always contemplate about the cannabis industry, and it's weird at how even you and I have a space here in the conversation, right? It just blows my mind that 18-year-old, there's somebody 18-year-old me out there talking about me, talking about Miggy 420 and how this guy survived without like, going to jail, first off. All these little hurdles that they don't have to face. There's nothing like what regulation that I thought was going to be, or not regulation, but legalization was going to be like, just I can start growing in my backyard and selling it, but it doesn't work that way, because you got to have the storefronts, you got to have the lab testing. And so my industry magazine, which is not cannabis related, that came in today, was Cal Lab magazine. So
Cal Lab, whoa, I didn't know you were a subscriber.
Yeah. That's the heady shit, right? And you probably get all kinds of weird lawyery shit that
I get lawyer magazines. Yes, that's true.
And so it'll be cool. I can't wait to talk to Chad. I wonder what kind of subscription base he's on.
You know what? Maybe we should do our international news and bring on our special guest.
Let's do that.
In international news, Chad Westport is joining us because he is our man in Amsterdam.
Yes,
what up, Chad?
I love Amsterdam. It's a great place to visit, and I just came back.
I hear this is the news out of them. Amsterdam has curbed cannabis smoking in public because it was causing grim tourist behavior. This is out of Euronews.travel, and granted, it was on the 15th of the 2nd, so you can tell it's a European article because it puts the day before the month. However, that was a few months ago. Did you notice that you're not allowed to smoke in public when you were in Amsterdam this time?
There are a lot of changes, and that change actually it takes effect in a couple of days. It takes effect in the middle of May. So this was the last 420. You were able to openly walk around the red light and smoke. I don't think it's going to be a huge deterrent. There may be tickets, there may be some fines, but in the big scope of things, I think smoking a joint in the red light is still acceptable.
But this has been one of those things that I've heard for years. Again, you both have been to Amsterdam. For me, it was like a mecca, an ideal place that I want to go and pay homage to because of all the early High Times cups that were there and all the seed companies based out of there. Because when prohibition was very strong out here in the States, there was always Amsterdam, right? There was always this wonderland. Then eventually Vancouver became the local North American Amsterdam, but still Amsterdam has the history there. But this anti-weed thing, anti-drug thing has been going on for years. You're saying it's finally going to happen? They're finally got a date with this, huh?
They have, and unfortunately, cannabis has been lumped into a lot of the alcohol and sex-related tourism there because it's all concentrated in one area. Granted, it is spread out through the city, but here's one of the key problems: is it's a city that last year saw 18 million tourists. At the heart of the city, I believe there's less than 1 million people. When you get that influx of people and the reasons they're there, it can be a nuisance if you're a resident.
Sure.
And that's what they're trying to fight. But unfortunately, cannabis has been lumped into this rowdiness, and it too is being pushed out. They're very blasé about cannabis there. They're like, maybe not. We were there again on 420, and we went to various coffee shops and talked to people. We're like, happy 420. They're like, huh? Nobody celebrated.
Pardon me.
It's Thursday.
It's not. It's Thursday, or it's actually 5:20. What 420?
So that was lost on them. But middle of May this year, your last opportunity to legally smoke outdoors in the red light.
Let's go to the prices. And so I was shocked on this one right here, and I'm going to try to zoom in even more. And so can we finally read that? Yeah, maximum 5 grams. 1 gram is, and then can I drag it and slide the other way? No, I can't. So 1 gram was, I guess, $17. There's some right there for $17. I'm sorry, these aren't dollars, these are euros. Right, so a gram for 17 to 19, down to 11 euro for 1 gram. For a whole eighth, you're talking about what, 100 euros?
Oh my God.
And exceptional flowers, so they have runce mints. You have to pay 32 euro a gram for runce mints, and that's $100. Doing it again, 100 euro eighth.
The prices are ridiculous, and you will see in every coffee shop they will have a Cali strains menu, and that's typically the ones where you see their upper 20s, lower 30s per gram. There's an implication that this is actually imported from California, and so it is not premium flower, not just Cali strain grown in the Netherlands. It's implied that it's imported. I personally did not spend the 32 euro a gram to find out how good it was, but yeah.
All the growers that are tuning in, all the growers that are tuning in, we got to start exporting it into Europe. That's it, because you can't sell it here. And if we put it over there for 30 euro a gram, holy crap.
But that's
pure business might be saved.
Shit. But that's also very European, because I know online I see a lot of California references in UK. And so I'd imagine this is just a stroking selling point, right? Really, is that from Cali? How many prison walls were seen? These guys in Cali are already making their own money here. They don't need to ship it to UK.
There's a lot of marketing game, again, because if you don't know, you can't dispute it. But going there, fortunately, the things that they're very famous for and very tired of, like the White Widow, the hazes, the amnesia cheeses, that's what we like. So we go there and we get their cheap stuff, and it works out great.
Well, this
is what I like, though. This is what I would have gone and see. The tulips were in full bloom. Which tulip farm did you go see? Look at it. They're farming this shit. It's amazing. You have a dike and a tulip farm in that shot. Is that Haarlem? Not Harlem, but Haarlem, the place that's outside of Amsterdam.
Yes, actually, this is Kokenhof. This is the main tulip field, tulip place. We did stay in Haarlem, though. That was where the flower parade finished. They build floats out of flowers, and then it's a big weekend-long thing. They drive them there. But yeah, go to Kokenhof. It is amazing. It will blow your mind. And
especially around 420. If you go to Kopenhagen,
yeah.
that third, fourth week of April when
Yep.
all the tulips are blooming, magical.
You
That's
can
the
come
trick.
to Mount Vernon, Washington for that too, if you want.
Yep. And amazingly enough, I used to live in Holland, Michigan as a kid. So we had tulip
Oh
fields
my
too.
God.
Now, how
That's
Dutch
awesome.
are you? If you
Pretty
do the
Dutch.
23andMe, got some Dutch? All right, there you go.
Yes.
What else is in the news? That was our international session. Oh, this one's kind of neat. This one's out of the Ganjapreneur. The Ganjapreneur is reporting on legalization out of Rhode Island. No, New Hampshire Senate votes down cannabis legalization bill. So New Hampshire Senate voted 14-10 on Thursday to reject a House-approved cannabis legalization proposal, which means you probably aren't going to have legalized weed in New Hampshire this year. New Hampshire, I believe, they are interesting and idiosyncratic in the sense that all of their liquor stores are state-owned. So they have a socialistic alcohol industry in New Hampshire.
I think that's the state-owned thing is more of a way to refer. So Washington State had that same thing. It was all state-owned liquor stores until what we call the Costco bill came through, because Costco sued them to get access to their own, to sell liquor, pretty much. But what you're talking about really are just the state funneled. They don't really own the stores. There was still a citizen, a Washingtonian that was in charge of the store. There were still Washingtonians that were part of the infrastructure. It was just a matter of that licensing bullshit. The kind of same thing with the weed stores, right? Technically, you can call all these fucking weed stores state-owned stores, right? Because
they're state licensed. They're state licensed and state heavily taxed. States have wet their beak very much in the legal industry, but not Democratic Senator Lou D'Alessandro. No, the longest serving member in the New Hampshire Senate. He voted against the bill. So there you go. Everybody who thinks the Democrats are going to vote for legal weed, you should go to New Hampshire. No, they won't. Because he has a quote, D'Alessandro, I'm not sure. I'm butchering his name, but it's fine because he lives in the past.
Right.
It would say to our children that marijuana is safe and could be used without harmful consequences, and nothing could be further from the truth, which leads me to go, Senator D'Alessandro, what personal experience do you have of that fact?
Exactly. Or show me the cases that you're talking about. They're all full of shit, but the governor, I believe, was in charge or on board with that. So if it makes it through, the governor said he would sign that.
But good.
This is kind of like the Safe Banking Act, though, right? Like, Chad, we're talking earlier. So this thing is stuck in committee. The fucking parliamentary procedure is the worst. It's not the worst because there's other, I guess, what do you call it? Like dictatorships.
It can be misused.
And it's just so long, right? It's like, how is this bill in a committee? When do we as a people get the deadline of saying, are you going to pass this out of committee or not, right? It doesn't work that way. It's going to be on their own schedule. So as exciting as it is, it's in committee. When you have assholes like Kevin Sabet talking about, I can't believe you're all talking about banking for cannabis when we got the what's the bill coming? Not the bill, but the inflation, not inflation, but the debt ceiling coming up. We got a border crisis, which is not really a crisis. It's just the same shit that happens all the same shit that happen every day. This asshole brings up and uses that the word salad coming out of his mouth. You're like, nothing was really said. It's just a lot of fear mongering Fox News bullshit.
Nothing was really changed either. That's the thing.
So is that enough to keep it in committee? Because we don't know. None of this rule shit really happens until it fucking happens, which is the very frustrating part of all these things.
Sure enough, it really is a frustrating aspect of the parliamentary procedure, but at least we have one. And we debate and they deliberate. Senate in New Hampshire didn't vote for it. Senate a week before in Minnesota, they voted for it. And we've been covering it. And so thank you guys for tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News, sitting back and watching history as we legalize one state at a time. Because the federal government will not get off its duff and do anything. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but we do have a very special break in the action to report. It's It's 20 past the hour, which means that for those of you in the East Coast, at least if you're watching this live, it is 4:20 somewhere. We're going to take a short commercial break. You know what reminds me of what Chad was talking about before the commercial break for Collateral Base? Head on over to collateralbase.com. Unless you really want a question about cannabis, then you can go over to my law blog, cannabisindustrylawyer.com. Get in touch with me. Can't wait to help out you and your licensing dreams. But, Chad, you mentioned how there was this California weed when you were in Amsterdam. Did you see the news out of Benzinga with a lawsuit that's alleging cannabis diversion and counterfeiting in the California industry?
I would never imagine such a thing could happen.
I'm shocked that diversion of cannabis may have happened in the West Coast. That is a suit brought by George Engers, former chief operating officer of a California-based cannabis company, Top Shelf, who filed a lawsuit alleging whistleblower retaliation, wrongful termination, fraud, breach of contract, and more, worth reportedly $2.1 million. Or actually, the $2.1 million was what he is alleging was the cannabis diversion and counterfeiting.
Snitches get stitches.
Oh, yes. But
this motherfucker, though, come on.
Yeah, but snitches get stitches. But then again, like when you are in the business, you have to publicly report and you have to make disclosures. Otherwise, you'll lose your license. And so if, I don't know, the snitches get stitches, that's when it's a crime. It's no longer a crime.
We need a hybrid system. That would work a lot better for the legacy growers. We need a hybrid system.
My issue with this whole this lawsuit, first off, there's two things. This Top Shelf brand that this guy's talking about that's down in California. There's another one up here in Washington State. So who's the first one? Who's the right one? For me, I know this guy up here. It's a whole theme, right? So his glasses, like an eighth, comes in little shot glasses. Top Shelf like alcohol. And then you can even, I think he even patented it up to an ounce. These huge ass shot glasses. And he's a really hell of a nice guy. And I've met him. I've talked to him. He's got plans about expanding. He wanted to expand to another state because he's doing like you and I talked about, Tom, where you create an SOP. This is your brand. This is how you're going to do things and quality. He's like, he has it down out here. And I'm legit. I thought when I first came across the brand, I was like, you're talking a lot of shit when you call yourself Top Shelf. You better always be good, right? Mm-hmm. There's a bar when you say you're something. Like if you say you're filet mignon or Wagyu or whatever. So he's no shit got quality products every time I've experienced the brand. But this one in Cali, I wonder is associated with him. And then the other thing too is about the diversion thing. I really hate that word as far as when it comes to like legalization because it's a stupid thing. I'm mad because this weed is leaving the state. That's all.
Well, maybe you can call it embezzling. Like, let's say it's a casino and you replace cannabis with money, but it's the same thing. You're just slipping product or you're taking money out of the till and it's unreported income.
Sure.
And so that's what they're trying to, that's why you have a license. And so like, just if you were skimming, you would get in trouble with the gaming commission, just like if you were slipping product out the back and like for some reason, you take a private jet to Amsterdam with a couple of extra pieces of luggage that, oops, I lost it there. Yeah. And you don't come back with it, it's one of those. But I love this aspect of the story where this guy's a whistleblower and ain't nobody gives a shit that you're blowing whistles, bro. And so, like he goes, Engers believes there's been a lack of investigation or penalty by authorities for Top Shelf's violations of state and federal laws. Despite reporting the violations and providing evidence, the business remains unaffected with an active license. There we go, out of the Green Market Report. That's Jonah Scopel, a Benzinga staff writer.
For that diversion word, too, I was thinking about, remember how I told you my trip in Cali? When I was down there, I bought some black market traditional legacy weed, the process. I called a number. I have a link. They actually had a website, which blew my mind. But I was saying,
had a WooCommerce store and everything.
Yeah, and that's why there's a level of balls involved in all this. I won't tell anybody. I won't put it out there because that will just blow their shit. Because if someone with a grudge wanted to, they could in California, right? But the thing is, that Stizzy cart that I bought. So I bought a Stizzy cart, and I bought these M&M, like they look like no shit M&M bags, but like stone M&M characters on there. Shit, great art. Everything was beautiful about it. But the thing is, that Stizzy, I wondered if Stizzy was like letting that be the diversion, right? So like diversion can be within the state. It can be within that no tax thing. There needs to be a better word with that, because here in Washington State, they were using diversion for the seed to sell shit, right? We can't let everybody like shit leave the state. We need to know where it's gone. Why do I care what weed goes to Idaho for other citizens that's legal in my state?
They don't care if the weed goes to Idaho. They just care if it was legally purchased and they collect their taxes in Washington before it's taken over the state lines to Idaho.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like, you don't care about the shit leaving. You just care about the money before it leaves. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And they need to look at the reason for it too, whether it's just a surplus or better financial gains. Or
that's right, people. You heard it here. Oh, as this cavalcade rolls along, cannabis legalization news brings you news out of Ohio. Recreational marijuana enthusiasts get closer to legalizing weed in Ohio. If you live in Ohio, go sign a petition so that you can get it on the ballot. The Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol Coalition is collecting petition signatures from people like Sam in Cleveland, who said, yeah, I'm all for it. There's a true quote from Sam in Cleveland.
But it goes, Jed.
I was going to say, when are we going to stop comparing cannabis to alcohol? That needs to happen at some point. Because
I don't think you have to reach the tantamount before you can then start shaming alcohol. Because once we are as culturally accepted and as widely available and utilized as alcohol, you're talking about like 4 out of 5 Americans agree, as opposed to 1 out of 5 Americans smokes weed. And so we're still at the 20% smokes weed, 4 out of 5. They really don't care.
Yeah, that conversation is going to be running until every state has their own form of legalization. Right? Because it's so funny you say that, just because the parity's not there. Kevin Sabet was talking about that Sam banking shit. Oh, hold on. That was a big ass truck.
Oh, yeah.
When Sabet was talking on the fucking thing, he was talking about how there's more Americans smoking cannabis than there are alcohol right now. You know what, my friend? If that's the case, then everybody would go to the voting polls, because this thing affects our lives every day. That's the only reason why I've been advocating, doing all the bullshit I do, helping people because people get locked up for stupid shit for growing a plant that's way better than the legal shit out there. So the oxymoron is way too much right now.
Sorry, dude. It sucks.
I just had to say it.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, you know what? It's also not the legalization that you would envision, because even in open market states like Massachusetts also is, by the way, and stories like this have come out of Massachusetts before. I can't wait for them to start coming out of New Jersey. You know it's going to happen. But this one is out of Michigan cannabis legalization news. The second lobbyist pleads guilty in medical marijuana corruption scheme today. This is out of the Detroit Free Press. That's right.
Shocked.
I know, right? And Brian Pierce, 45, along with Vincent Brown, 32, funneled $42,000 in bribes to former Michigan House Speaker Rick Johnson during his tenure as the now defunct Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Agency. Go figure.
So one in Oregon last week, now Michigan. I don't know but our governing body settled with a lawsuit before we even became I-502. The law wasn't intact. Somebody sued the LCB and they settled so this motherfucker wouldn't release about secret meetings. Like, I don't get how they can settle with one person about secret meetings when, like, why wouldn't that incur more lawsuits? Because if you settle with one person, you don't represent everybody, the consumers. But there's so much corruption, this bullshit.
You make sure you set out a notice in the paper, so everybody's got constructive notice now, and then you wait. Shit. And I'm just kidding. It's fun suing states over licenses. And so I can't wait to do that in other states, even though I have to get pro Hachiviche status. So like we're doing it in Illinois, we're doing all right but then what's going to be the next one? And then can you sue cities if you don't get the license? Because a lot of times, like it is just one person who gets it, and then there's these, and if you don't get it, and you're taking money, somebody's going to report you. There's why are we legalizing it like this?
You're talking about the lawsuits and the licenses too, right? But this lawsuit was actually in the process of the rulemaking and processing of the policies. So there's different ways that you can interact when this thing comes to your state. I think now we're at the point here in Washington, we don't have home grow. God, we've been fighting for that forever. But it's in the legislation hand. But
Chad, don't you grow at home?
With a medical license in Washington State, you still can, but those are not easy to come by. And yeah, we were talking, Miggy, earlier about things being stuck in committee forever. Home grow, Washington, 11 years later, still waiting on it.
11 years. Who's profiting? Who is Uncle Ike paying? I don't think. Yeah, I guess Uncle Ike would care because whoever's making the retail sales, they want less competition. But come to my weed stop.
I don't think that's the issue for us. I think it's the lack of incentive, just personal, because there is nobody championing and putting the money into it, right? It's not that Ike's is against it. They're just not championing it. They're not throwing money at the people who here in Washington State. It was two retirees, Don Skacke and John Kingsbury, who drove across this fucking state talking to people in different senior citizen centers and libraries and shit, getting people on board. And then he got the Cannabis Coalition on board, who definitely supported it. But at the same time, you had there's the Washington Sun Grower Association. You had people against it. You had full-on people. There's another business association against it too. That those are the ones that don't like competition. So yeah, maybe Ike's is paying someone through those guys, or a Fat Panda, because those are the larger ones here. But by the way, Fat Panda has their own controversy because that owner,
he's in trouble.
God, that dumbass, he decided to break the rules in another state with his same product. I was like, why would you do that?
That wasn't even THC. Yeah, it wasn't even THC. But I think that goes to show you just how the Washington system leans. Like that sort of solution, not allowing home grow, is not very consumer based. It's very business based. And when you look at that, that's really how a lot of the other decisions play out in Washington.
That's so odd because if you look at Missouri versus Illinois, for example, Missouri has the more business friendly belief or brand, if you will, as opposed to Illinois. But then Illinois doesn't allow for adult use home grow. It allows, much like Washington State, for medical patient home grow. So I can grow at home because I'm a medical patient. But then in Missouri, like an adult can grow 6 plants. And then in Minnesota, I think they are going to settle on 2 or 4 plants. So it's fascinating that. And then Missouri had a heck of a lot of sales too. So I don't think that home grow means that people aren't going to go down the block and buy. If anything, it looks like they buy more. Because if you grow tomatoes, you probably buy tomatoes at the grocery store.
Exactly. But they forget too, it creates a whole new market. Now you got seeds for sale, you got clones for sale. This is all shit I saw in medical days. It's so funny how we regressed with legalization here in Washington State. It was pro plant. And not just saying it from a hippie perspective, but as a consumer who smokes pretty much every fucking day, anytime he can. When that's like before work, after work, maybe during work sometimes, depending on what I'm doing. But I'm a grown up. You know what I'm saying? It's not alcohol. I can't do that with alcohol. I couldn't wake up, crack a beer or a 6-pack. And then now I'm in the afternoon, I'm going to have 2 beers, 3 beers at the most, be sober or be feeling good for a little bit. But then after that, I couldn't do that till in the morning, noon, and night. 2 different fucking goddamn substances, pretty much. But we try and compare them. And then again, Chad, that's when all the states get knocked out and people realize it's that whole woke bullshit. When people talk about woke, what is woke? Woke is just fucking understanding. You're understanding this plant is not the thing that it's going to make you not want to go to work or make you not want to. No, it's the understanding of it. It's not, this is the shit that makes me go, you know what? A couple of these, I'm like, you know what? Hey, I just ain't doing shit today. I am.
Yeah, it's like 8% alcohol. Hey, you know what that stuff does smell like, though? It could smell a little dank. It could be there could be some terpenes in those IPAs that you like. And with that, we should play something with Chad, because he, on the podcast, will often guess this. But name that strain, because we didn't play it last week. So we're definitely playing it this week. Miggy, imagine you awoke one morning to find out that you had become a dank cola. You had metamorphosized, as if Franz Kafka was reimagining a cockroach and said, you know what, I should just make it be like a big weed nug instead. It'll be for a better story. And it would have. Kafka would have sold a lot more if he would have metamorphosized into this dank nugget right there.
I would be hiding. I'd be running from people like Chad. Don't smoke me! No! Let me
Getting
live.
chased with grinders down the street.
Yes. Now, would you believe that this strain's parents are Sunset Sherbet and OZ Kush? That is a Skittles crossed with an OG Kush. Does that look like that to you?
FYI, Chad does not know the name today, so he is not an insider.
Right. But those are the clues, and this is like one of those. This would be a Cali strain, for example. Evidently, it came out of Oakland, California. Sunset Sherbet and OZ Kush are the parents of this. This is a fairly recent strain. Wow. And 1/8 ounce bags of authentic this strain could fetch $80 to $85 in the global markets for exotics. It's an exotic, everybody. This would be the $32 a gram. That, oops.
Goddamn.
Going to Europe. Oops, I lost my luggage.
Yes, definitely. And I'm noticing it's got nice orange, bright hairs on there. It's a close trim, but you definitely see some purple in there, which tends to lend itself to a particular family of strains, which is probably in there. So yeah, it's a good looking nug there.
It is a good looking nug. And then let's see here. This one is from Deo Farms, and checking out the RS line from Wizard Trees. It's RS number 11 and RS number 54. The pivotal parent here, dying breed seed strains OZ Kush.
I like the colors too involved.
I did see RS11 on one of the coffee shop menus, and I believe it was about €18 a gram.
Okay, RS. Ooh. When you talking about RS, are you talking about like the Rick Simpson oil, or are you talking about a cannabinoid?
Just a name from what I remember. It's just how breeders sometimes will label things.
Yeah, G13.
Yeah, perfect example. But yeah, RS11, I'm sure it stands for something somewhere, and I'm sure we've got 10 people with 8 different opinions.
Yeah, it's real smooth, number 11.
There we go.
RS. And you got it. The guy over there who's watching and just guessed Zope. That is correct. This is Zope. Probably also pronounced like Skittles with an S. And so I bet it's Soap, a hybrid weed strain made by crossing rainbow sherbet and pink guava. Evenly balanced powerhouse is a quick onset, bringing waves of euphoria and positivity. Boy, they probably used the ChatGPT to write this direct.
And Zope I did see Zope on the menu, but I do think it was north of €20 as well.
There you go. It's an exotic, true exotic, which are the strains that you can charge a lot more for.
Chad, was that your first time in Amsterdam?
No, a fourth time.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you seen, so I know the euro and the American dollar, like they're almost like 1-on-1 now, right? It used to be like the euro was 2 times more.
Yeah.
No, 1.25.
Yeah. The exchange rate is better these days.
So is the prices you're seeing in the cafes, are they like paired with, you were paying $20 back then, or were you back then paying $10?
No, the prices have steadily increased. When I started, well, let's just say 2019, there was like $8 to $11 or euros. You had maybe 6 or 7 options. Now you have 2, maybe 3 options in that range. There's always the larger amounts, but here's the trick of the cannabis coffee shops in Amsterdam and where they get you. Even if you buy that €11 gram, if you want to sit down in the coffee shop and smoke, you also need to buy a drink. And me and my wife, not even being drinkers, we would normally go for like a tea or a hot coffee or hot chocolate.
Yeah.
We figured out that the beer is the cheapest thing on the menu. So we could just order a beer and give it to somebody.
Fuck.
And sit down
Oh,
and
wow.
have our weed.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's the
crazy.
trick of the Amsterdam coffee shops.
I mean,
Oh, my
especially not a
goodness.
drinker or nothing. Yeah.
I just can't believe that beer is the cheapest. Would you like some water? Yes, that'll be €7. Ah, crap. How much is the beer? $3. Why is it in dollars? Yeah.
Because we don't care.
That's
Yeah.
crazy though. But it's good to hear too. Like right here in the States, we accepted the $10 gram. That's going to be a thing no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Recreational or whatever. But to hear that fluctuation price in Amsterdam, it sounds to me too also they haven't figured out to make it a industry or it's still an offshoot by itself because Amsterdam itself doesn't recognize its own sensei seeds or anybody, do they?
So it's illegal until it enters the coffee shop. Now, how it's made, how it gets there, they leave that to its own devices, which really is where you can run into problems. But yes, once it's in the coffee shop, it's legal. They can only have 500 grams per day. So they sell a lot of that. So they're constantly getting new supplies.
Oh,
But
that
yeah,
is just
prices
like
are
a
going up.
pound and a half. That's maybe a little bit less than a pound and a half, actually. And so, like, that would be amazing. So you just have a pound of weed that you can sell that day, and that's it. That is a coffee shop in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam's though, they haven't figured out that they're losing out on a bunch of money. Holy shit. If they were to change that rule, because I know that was the thing, right? As soon as it hits the coffee space, it magically is legal, right? Some dumb fucking rule says that you can grow it, plant it, or you can't. But that the thing that you did after all these months, if you were to get it to that fucking door all of a sudden, you're safe.
Right.
It's like,
But still, at 500 grams a day, at $15 a gram, that's $7,500 a day. Let's say you're just open 20 days out of the month.
sure.
That would be 150 large a month. That is not a bad small business.
No, but the growers, though, this is locking in for just specific growers. Like here in the States, where you got to have a lot of money to grow the game, and in that country, you got to already have the network, it seems, because it's been like the mecca for years. So I imagine now there's established growers and people who are being okay with the cops. But if that country were to legalize cannabis alone, it would wreck the market, because then now the price, like I said, the $10 gram, the fact that we have, it's not a unique $10 gram. It's not a unique way to grow and shit. They can make, it seems to me that the States, the way we're doing it is just better off for the end consumer. So far, it seems weird because, like, price point wise, there's some shitty ass weed that I wouldn't recommend to patients, but also if you're a patient, that probably is your better option than the something over the counter that can. I just got done taking some blood pills that made my leg hurt for some odd reason, and now I had to stop them, and I'm doing something else. So, you know, I'd rather trust a plant, try a plant first than some fucking pill. That's all.
Even Ozempic, have you heard that it's made out of unicorn tears?
Shit.
Hey, getting back to cannabis legalization news, we have a juxtaposition of stories for you. One from Newsweek and another one from Miami's Community News. That one first. A federal report has found that despite cannabis legalization, over a decades-long study, use continues to decline in teens. And that is according to some fly-by-night organization known as the United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It says that the percentage of high school students who acknowledge having ever used cannabis or who say they are current cannabis consumers has fallen since 2011, the very dawn, even before adult use became a thing, in fact. And according to this new CDC report, the percentage of high schoolers who have ever tried marijuana fell 30% over that decade of legalization. Isn't that interesting? Legalization has made cannabis less cool and less easy for teenagers to get.
And for some reason, too, I almost feel that people would be more readily to admit the use now on a survey versus then on a survey. So that could also skew the numbers. But yeah, it's if your parents are doing it, it's not cool. So you don't want to do it.
100%. Saw this coming. How many people want to be like this guy? I'm just kidding. But yeah, we'll be a 50-year-old man sitting in front of you talking about weed.
Oh, and then here is another quote that we should also cover before we turn to the next story in our juxtaposition news segment First ever, by the way. So anyway, in 2021, Dr. Nora Voklo, director of the United States Institute on Drug Abuse, publicly acknowledged that the enactment of statewide laws regulating the adult use cannabis market has not led to an increase in percentage of young people experimenting with it. That is, can you trust the government's own numbers?
What about the children, though, Tom? What about the children?
And that brings us to the Kevin Sabet article out of Newsweek magazine this week. So Kevin Sabet's back. That's right. He is with Smart Approaches to Marijuana, aka SAM. After a decade, marijuana legalization is not going well. That is the title of his opinion column that he probably paid $50,000 to Newsweek so that could be sponsored content for. And it's his opinion that he says, oh, today's weed is much stronger with THC. In 1995, and Chad, we're going to see if you can help us with, you're going to be our veracity provider on this claim of his. Joints in 1995 averaged 3.7% THC. Chad, were you an enthusiast of the plant in 1995?
I was. I have a hard time believing those numbers. I don't doubt that they
based on
but that is
your personal knowledge. This is now, what personal knowledge do you have that his opinion column in Newsweek is just bullshit?
If you're familiar with Kevin Sabet's work.
But what we got here is 3 people of experience, and then this dumb motherfucker. Yeah. But here's the funny thing, too. I am so frustrated with how policy and things are conducted, right? Because he did have a fucking Obama's ear with the drug administration, right? The reason why the fucking Choom King didn't fucking legalize it that year is because this knucklehead was going, no, look, I'm all about the people. I'm all about end consumers and everything, but we just can't change the law. That's the most ridiculous fucking thing that like, if you really think about it later, when you're like, someone gaslight. This is what this guy does. He just constantly gaslights people.
Let's do the juxtaposition aspect of our article, because remember, we just got data from the federal government, the CDC, and then the National Institute of Drug Abuse. And now Kevin Sabet has the privilege and the authority and the balls to say the exact opposite thing. As a result, he says, more people are using marijuana and they are using it more heavily. In 2021, 52.5 million Americans over the age of 12 used marijuana at least once in the past year, more than doubled from 2 decades ago. There were 13.2 daily THC products, daily users of THC products in 2021, compared to 5.4 million in 2012 and 3.1 million in 2002. Look at that. And so it is just saying the exact opposite, or like saying maybe true numbers, but like in a misleading way.
Exactly. That's the perfect example of like everybody 12 and up increased by this much. How much did 12 to 21 increase versus 21 to 81? Come on, buddy.
Yeah. Let's take 9 years of youths and then throw them into the data to scare people about the children. And what actually is, maybe people are actually reporting their numbers now because they don't feel like it's going to jeopardize their jobs. And the numbers haven't changed at all.
You know what's more frustrating about this guy, too, is every time he comes up in life when it comes to this damn subject, because that's the only reason why I know who this guy is. It's like, I look at your history. When I take financial advice, I'll say, Tom, hey, what do you think about if I put $10,000 that I have into this, right? Because Tom's good with money. If I want to go look for a house, I'll go talk to a real estate. This guy's only experience in life is a sociology degree. This is all he's done. He had a sociology degree, and then he fucking worked for Obama. It's like, you have no life experience. Like, people who talk to you about kids and don't have fucking kids, those are the most frustrating people. And then you're going to tell me, like, you're a vegan and you believe in Jesus, too. People who tell you all the shit up front, and that's this guy. And it's like, you have no knowledge, no real substance that can help me in my life. And it's even more frustrating because he had fucking Obama's ear. I'm just saying, this dumb motherfucker had Obama's ear. Just like all the other people.
And it's too bad that the America isn't where it is now that it was back then. I don't know. I think it's so politicized now. We're still going to be doing this legalization show. We can't call it cannabis industry news for like years.
You know? No, but the way politics work, the way the parliamentary procedure, it's almost like, like Trump, the last guy. He was our influencer president, only because he was like, he got a lot of people to know who he was because of all the shows and bullshit he did. It wasn't anything substantial. It wasn't anything like policy wise or created anything or helping people in any way. It was just some bullshit media thing that we get very starstruck here in the United States, and it's like dumb.
We do.
Yeah,
we get carried away to the point too that 3.75 that Kevin Sabet was referencing in 1995. That was probably a real number, but it was probably from the Mississippi place, the only place allowed to grow cannabis, and they sucked at it. So it wasn't in touch again with reality, and that just goes to shows that there is so much cherry picking out there of information. That's why shows like this are important, and people who can actually read past the headline. That's an important thing to do, and I encourage everything to consider. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that our apples right now are like at least 50% more apple than they were back in 1995. I think it just, when you think about it, with it's any other, if you replaced cannabis with any other commodity, it just sounds stupid as fuck. Like our orange juice, way more orange juicy than it was in 1995 because of breeder selection and being able to do the right things.
It's the pulp.
Yeah, it's the pulp. Oh, Chad, thank you so much for coming and like hanging out, dude. And I know that you got some other shows that you're doing. Why don't you like tell the people what you're up to and where they can find you?
Oh, thank you. Yes, probably the easiest place to find me is Instagram. It's chad.westport. Also have a YouTube name, Chad Westport, and the website chadwestport.com. Those are the best places to stay up to date with me, but I'm doing a lot of writing these days. Sensi Seeds, ILGM, A Pot for a Pot. You find me on the Future Cannabis Project. But you also find me in the chat of Cannabis Legal News. So thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to join you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for bringing like our man in Amsterdam, bringing us the news about what's going on there. That's pretty much the podcast for me. Any parting words, Miggy?
No, man, it's been great. I really do appreciate it, Chad. It's been a great conversation, and go call your mom.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go call your mom. Tune in next week.
Take
Miggy
care,
and I
Thank
will
you.
have a special episode because we're going to be in CannaCon, and so we're going to it's going to be another filmed episode. Sorry about that. But we're going to record some crap in CannaCon and then post it Sunday because we'll be traveling back on Sunday. So
We'll
see you in
live.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll try to go live there. Like we have to make sure they have 5G. If they have 5G,
Fingers
I'll bring some doohickeys. You know,
Any
this is
G.
my iPhone. Any G. No, you go past LTE and you just not. You don't have the upload capacity.
Breaking
Awesome.
L up and shit.
Yeah. See you guys next time.